Viola gazed into Rubina's eyes with a warm smile as she asked for forgiveness. For a moment, Rubina was silent, but suddenly she beamed with delight like an angel, and told her that she would forgive her once they were friends. From our girl's perspective, she could see a halo and wings, making Rubina look like a beautiful angel. In her mind, she pondered if this meant she wasn't the villain of the story anymore and was excited to start over and live a happy life in that world. Rubina then told her there was something she wanted to say, but they couldn't discuss it there. Intrigued, Viola asked if they should head outside to talk. So, the two of them went to a park with a lovely fountain. There Rubina asked how the seduction was going, noting that Viola seemed to have gotten close to Fel de Faloa earlier. Here we can just call him Fel for sure. Viola smiled and reassured her that it was going very well. Rubina clenched her fist in understanding. Viola then asked what Rubina wanted to talk about, inquiring if there was something else on her mind. Rubina muttered, wondering why her art suddenly changed. However, Viola didn't hear her, so she moved closer and asked what she had said. Rubina changed her mind and told her it was nothing, smiling and grinning as she assured Viola that she trusted her to handle the matter. She suggested they go back inside. But as they were about to leave, a guy suddenly grabbed Viola with a stern expression and a deep voice, asking her how long she was going to avoid him. Our girl was surprised as a guy suddenly grabbed her, with brown skin, a beautiful face, and anger in his expression. He asked Viola why she had been acting that way lately. Viola recognized the character as Theo de France. She remembered correctly that he was a side character, Rubina's close friend, and a man Viola had seduced in the book. She recalled that Theo was a respectable man but wondered where his manners had gone. Viola stood her ground, struggling to break free from him. Despite her efforts, Theo remained relentless, demanding to know why she was avoiding him. But Viola insisted he let go first. He retorted that he wouldn't let go until she answered his question, squeezing Viola's wrist and causing her pain. Annoyed and in pain, Viola viewed him as a total piece of trash and replied that she thought their relationship was already over and she had nothing to say to him. This only angered him more, and he became snarly, telling Viola they weren't done with her yet. Meanwhile, Rubina observed what was happening, and Theo apologized to her, asking for some space. At first, Rubina was hesitant, but she eventually agreed and left them alone. Viola felt a bit betrayed seeing her friend leave, realizing it wasn't natural for her to get mad at Theo for mistreating her friend, despite her previous perception of Rubina as an angel. With no other options, Viola stepped on Theo's foot with her heels as he backed away in pain. She smirked, telling him not to be so dramatic and even told him to let her go. Viola's wrist throbbed with pain after Theo's tight grip, surprising her with how weak her body felt. Irritated, she looked down at him, questioning how he could treat a lady so brutishly. She toughened up, warning him that if he ever did that again, she would make sure to leave a hole in his shin. Theo flinched, clearly afraid. Suddenly, Rubina returned for Viola, who felt relieved to see her. However, to Viola's surprise and disappointment, Rubina didn't seem to mind Viola avoiding her. This shocked Viola and left her feeling awkward. Later on, the three of them went back inside. Moments later, Fel mentioned to Viola that Rubina and Theo were very close friends, based on what he had observed. He speculated that Lady Rubina cherished Theo more than Viola, which made Viola feel sad. Being honest with herself, Viola admitted that she couldn't help but suspect Rubina whenever she behaved oddly. However, she acknowledged that Rubina's perspective might be different from hers. Viola knew that from Rubina's perspective, the real Viola appeared as a villainess who stole her lovers and copied her artwork. She understood that even Rubina might find it challenging to genuinely be kind to her. All Viola could do was wait until Rubina opened up to her. With a smile, Viola reassured Fel that Rubina was indeed a very nice person. Fel noticed Viola's wrist and asked if she was okay and if it hurt. Viola looked away as she thanked Fel for his concern, suggesting that he focus on something else instead of worrying about her. Fel mentioned that Rubina was with another man. Viola was surprised to hear this and told him that he should be jealous. Confused, Fel asked why he should be jealous. Viola explained that jealousy is often a sign of true love. However, Fel assured her that he was fine and focused on something else at the moment. Viola sighed, wondering why she bothered. She informed him that her wrist wasn't badly hurt and that he should focus more on Rubina, annoyance evident in her voice. Fel understood and Viola urged him to go, saying it was his chance. Suddenly, Theo appeared behind them, misunderstanding the situation. With rage on his face, he now understood why Viola was avoiding him. He shouted at Viola with anger in his voice, questioning if she was trying to seduce another man. Viola felt a little afraid of Theo's actions and urged Fel to hurry and leave before the misunderstanding escalated. However, Fel hesitated, thinking he should stay with Viola as Theo seemed upset, considering Theo a potentially dangerous person. Viola grew increasingly worried, silently pleading with Fel to go with Rabina. She couldn't understand why he wasn't listening to her, finding him stubborn. Just as Theo was about to strike Viola, he declared that he wouldn't forgive her and that he needed to correct her behavior. Annoyed yet resigned, Viola closed her eyes, bracing herself to endure the situation. Suddenly, she was surprised by the silence and wondered why Theo wasn't attacking her. Then she saw Fel stepping in to defend her. Fel grabbed Theo's hand and remarked that it was unexpected. He called out to Viola, asking if this was what she meant by a powerful and tough man. In Viola's eyes, Fel appeared as a charming prince, resembling a mighty horse that had just escaped the stables. Now, she pondered Fel's question. Was Theo not the tough guy she had mentioned before? Was he merely complete trash? Theo gritted his teeth with irritation and told Fel that it was something of concern. Fel sighed and replied that no one in their right mind would stand by and watch as a man attempted to hit a woman. He then looked at Rabina with a serious gaze, asking if he was right. This made Rabina freeze with nervousness, and she simply accepted what Fel said. He grinned and hoped she wasn't offended by his actions. The commotion caught the attention of the crowds, who began clamoring and murmuring about them. Theo noticed this. Theo turned away, while Rabina told Viola that Theo wasn't usually like that. With teary eyes, Rabina thanked Fel and reached out to touch him, expressing gratitude for preventing Viola from being hit. However, Fel, aware of his curse, flinched away from the lady's touch, clumsily attempting to avoid her. In his panic, he nearly tripped, urging Viola to move away. Viola witnessed him stumbling and thought about how she could have warned him, but it was too late. As a result, both of them collided, with Fel accidentally pinning Viola to the ground. They both felt embarrassed, their hearts racing. Initially, the room fell silent as they didn't know what to say. Fel broke the silence by asking if Viola was all right. Viola, still dazed, snapped out of it and assured him she was fine, requesting him to get off her. Fel fretted and apologized, and the atmosphere between them grew a little awkward after that. Rabina asked Viola if she was all right and noticed that her hands were somewhat injured from the fall. Viola just laughed it off, telling her that her wrist hurt a little. However, the Duke saw this and insisted that it wasn't enough. Fel approached Viola, tugging at her clothes as he called out her name. Viola asked him what was wrong, so Fel just dragged her away from the crowds. All the onlookers were shocked to see this, and Viola couldn't help but notice their stares, wondering what Fel was doing with so many people watching. Fel walked away with Viola in tow, and Viola asked him if he could just slow down a bit. However, he ignored her and continued dragging her away. Growing irritated, Viola pulled away and asked the Duke what he was planning to do now. The Duke replied, asking her about what, which only added to Viola's irritation as she realized he truly didn't know what he was doing. Fel then explained that he had become a liar because of her, although it wasn't his intention. Viola, still annoyed, while Fel seemed not to understand, confronted him, telling him that regardless of his intentions, the outcome was clear. He had no choice but to avoid Rabina. She questioned him on why he had dragged her out like that, causing everyone to think she had stolen another man. This left Fel speechless as he pondered her words. Fel took out his handkerchief and explained that he had tied it around Viola's injured wrist because he was concerned about her. This surprised Viola, who questioned if all of that commotion was just because of her injury. She suggested she could easily take care of it at home. Fel explained that because she's an artist, he needed to tend to her injury as quickly as possible. Viola momentarily forgot about her profession and appreciated the gesture, questioning if that was why he was worried about her, impressed by the Duke's consideration. Fel then mentioned the painting he had done that resembled her, piquing Viola's interest. She asked him about it. Fel admitted that the painting was a mess, surprising Viola with his response. He further explained that while she might love herself, she didn't take care of herself, had poor taste in men, was stubborn, and did whatever she liked, much like her artwork. Viola felt guilty and drooped down, telling Fel that he didn't have to say it like that. Fel muttered and said that despite those flaws, he was drawn to her, unable to stop thinking about her, much like her artwork. Viola was touched by his words, her eyes shimmering as she looked at Fel. He then remembered her earlier remark about becoming a liar. Viola admitted she had promised not to imitate Rabina or steal her lovers anymore, but people would still misunderstand her. Fel assured her that it didn't matter anymore because he wasn't her lover. He was puzzled about how Lady Rabina found out about his engagement plans, as he hadn't yet chosen his fiancée. Viola pointed out that he had been planning to get engaged to Rubina nonetheless. Fel confirmed this, but before he could elaborate, he abruptly told Viola to forget about it, stating that he was no longer sure. The event had ended, and Viola returned home, lying on her bed lost in thought. She pondered about the Duke, realizing that he wasn't impotent or awkward around women. In fact, he seemed caring and gentle. Recalling his face from their interaction, a part of her felt a pleasant tingling sensation. Suddenly, there was a knock on her door, and Viola called for the person to enter. Jenna, the maid, appeared and inquired about what Viola needed. Jenna had noticed Viola's injured wrist and had come to help. Viola wondered if Jenna had seen her wrist earlier upon her return, realizing she hadn't paid attention. Viola instructed Jenna to sit down first, making it easier for her to treat the injury. To her surprise, Jenna sat on the floor, knowing Viola's reputation for violence and feeling scared. Viola was baffled by Jenna's actions, realizing she hadn't meant for her to kneel. However, she understood Jenna's fear. While Jenna apologized for not noticing what Viola wanted, Viola reassured her that it was understandable. However, she insisted that Jenna shouldn't kneel so easily and instead instructed her to sit on the bed. Viola lectured Jenna, telling her not to apologize because it wasn't her fault. Jenna was surprised but smiled brightly, understanding Viola's words, and thanked her lady. After that incident, Viola avoided attending any high society events for a while. Part of the reason was her swollen wrist, worse than she had initially thought. However, another reason was Theo's persistent pursuit. He expressed regret for his previous actions and pleaded for Viola to open her doors to him, even wearing her favorite shirt. What a creep the guy was. She resolved to only need to pull one string to take him off her. Despite her disdain for Theo's behavior, Viola couldn't help but admire his sweet yummy body. Viola snapped out of her admiration, realizing she needed to pull herself together. She shouted at Theo, accusing him of thinking she was a pervert and ordered him to leave, forbidding him to untie his shirt. Despite her firm words, Viola couldn't help but blush, acknowledging Theo's attractive physique. She wondered how many guys she had encountered, reflecting on her taste in men. She pondered if she had ever drawn nudes, considering her exposure to such sights. Later, Viola finished her latest painting and felt exhausted, lying among her artworks. She began to feel sick of painting after spending so much time on it. Suddenly, Rubina appeared and asked Viola about her surroundings. Viola explained that she turned to drawing because she felt cooped up indoors for too long and hadn't visited Rubina in a while. Rubina admitted she had been busy and apologized for not making time to visit. Viola reassured her not to worry, explaining she hadn't been seriously injured and had chosen to stay home herself. She expressed concern about potential rumors spreading after the incident with Theo but was relieved Rubina hadn't come to see her. Rubina asked Viola why she had been so busy lately. Viola explained that she had been offered a position to teach art at the academy. This news delighted Viola, who sprung to her feet to congratulate Rubina, expressing confidence in her ability to be a great teacher. Viola knew Rubina was a talented artist and good at explaining things. Rubina murmured in agreement, acknowledging Viola's compliment. Rubina then inquired about Viola's encounter with the Duke. Viola realized that people might have been bad-mouthing her after her declaration that day, although she hadn't expected it. Despite this, she couldn't refuse Rubina's request. Seeing Rubina's concern, Viola considered how her reputation might have been tarnished again because of the incident. Based on what the Duke had told her about the engagement, Viola understood the implications. Rubina noticed Viola's hesitation and asked about it. Viola responded, asking if Rubina was sure about her agreement to get engaged to the Duke. Rubina admitted she wasn't entirely sure, leaving Viola irritated by her uncertainty. Viola wondered what Rubina meant by her response and braced herself for potential criticism. Now Viola is wondering if Rubina is lying or hiding something from her. Viola tells Rubina that she mentioned they hadn't gotten engaged yet. This surprises Viola, prompting her to ask if the Duke had said that to her. Viola confirms it was mentioned in passing. Furthermore, Viola questions if it's true that there was no need for Rubina to try so hard to seduce him. Rubina feels guilty, admitting she genuinely thought they were getting engaged. Viola is taken aback by this revelation, realizing that Rubina is not currently engaged. Now Viola senses that something is amiss. Suddenly, Rubina confirms that the Duke and she won't be getting engaged, leaving Viola in shock. Rubina explains that Viola inadvertently helped bring about the end of their engagement. Viola's true intention had been to bring them closer together, not to ruin Rubina's engagement. Viola expresses regret, stating that she didn't anticipate the engagement ending so abruptly. However, Rubina confesses that it was the Duke who initiated the decision to end it. Viola becomes even more concerned as she notices Rubina's cold demeanor. She asks her what's wrong and if this is truly what she wanted, but Rubina admits she isn't sure. Viola, still surprised by the turn of events, asks how they managed to open up to each other. However, Rubina simply shakes her head and dismisses the question. Just then, Rubina informs Viola that the headmistress of the academy wishes to see her. Viola pressed Rubina for more information. Rubina explained that the headmistress must have been impressed by Viola's painting displayed last time, as she had received the same offer to become a teacher. Rubina then grinned at Viola, informing her that once she got started, she would see her at the academy next time, and took her leave. Viola was left speechless, shocked to hear that the headmistress wanted to see her and potentially offer her a teaching position at the academy. With that, I conclude part 3 of this series. Now, what will happen next? Why did Rubina lie to our girl about the engagement? Is Theo really obsessed with our girl, making him a creepy dude? Lastly, what will all the students' reactions be after Viola becomes a teacher? Tune in next time for the next episode. Thanks for watching. Thanks for watching. Thanks for